You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now let's go. I remember the day I found the sweater as though it happened in slow motion. It was a Wednesday afternoon in early autumn, and the sun was dipping low, painting the walls of our apartment in a golden hue. I had come home from the law firm a bit earlier than usual. Normally, I'd be stuck in some late meeting with clients or negotiating settlements, but I managed to slip away and surprise my wife, Sarah. We've been together for 6 years, married for 3, and we were both doing well professionally. She was a marketing director at a tech startup, and I was making partner-track progress at a respectable legal firm in Chicago. Our life looked perfect on paper. A spacious apartment, 2 cars, stable finances, and we were even talking about starting a family. Actually, we've been having that discussion quite a lot lately, debating baby names and nursery colors, smiling at the thought of a tiny new life in our home. When I stepped into the apartment, Sarah wasn't there. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Tennis practice ran late. Be back soon. Love you. It wasn't unusual. Sarah had taken up tennis about a year ago to stay fit and network with some new clients. I never questioned it. After grabbing a snack, I decided to handle the laundry. Our hamper was overflowing, and I figured I'd impress Sarah by taking care of it. As I sorted through the clothes, a green sweater surfaced. It was smaller than mine and definitely not Sarah's style. It had a faded college logo from some university I'd never heard of. I held it up, puzzled. I tried to recall if I'd lent our place to a visiting friend or maybe we'd thrown a party and someone left it behind. But I couldn't remember anything like that. I shrugged, chalked it up to a weird coincidence. Maybe Sarah had borrowed it from a friend on a chilly night, or maybe the dry cleaner mixed our laundry with someone else's. I tossed it into the wash and tried not to overthink it. Days passed, and the sweater incident slid to the back of my mind. Work was busy, and Sarah and I were occupied discussing in vitro procedures, fertility clinics, and how we'd manage our schedules once a baby arrived. We were both excited and a bit nervous. My career was taking off, and so was hers. That night over dinner, pasta with homemade pesto, I casually brought up the sweater. Hey Sarah, did you happen to borrow a green sweater from someone? I found one in the laundry last week. She looked up from her plate, brow furrowing. Green sweater? I don't think so. Must be yours, maybe something you've had ages ago and forgot about. I forced a laugh. I don't wear a size small. Trust me, I'm not squeezing into that. She waved it off. Dry cleaner mistake, maybe. You know how they sometimes mix things up. Then she took a sip of her wine. Anyway, how was your day? The subject changed. She seemed completely unconcerned. I told myself I was imagining things that I should trust her. After all, we were about to start a family. It was another 2 weeks before the second incident. I came home late one night. This time Sarah was already asleep, and I noticed a duffel bag by the living room couch. It was black and sporty, the kind of mesh pockets that often hold tennis balls. Curious, I unzipped it. Inside, I found men's tennis clothes, shoes, and even a distinctive tennis racket grip. Definitely not mine. My stomach tightened. I told myself maybe it belonged to a tennis instructor who had left it behind. Maybe Sarah was doing him a favor by washing his gear. But it didn't quite sit right. I gently lifted a t-shirt out, smelling faint traces of sweat and cologne that wasn't mine. My heart sank a little. The next morning, I confronted Sarah in the kitchen as she made coffee. Hey, I found a gym bag last night. Men's tennis clothes. You know anything about that? She looked startled for a fraction of a second, so brief I almost thought I imagined it. Then her face relaxed into a smile. Oh, it's probably Jeff's. You remember Jeff, right? The guy who fixed our leaky faucet last month. He's been helping me out with tennis. I'd offered to wash his stuff once when he spilled sports drink on it. I guess he left it behind, she shrugged. I'll give it back to him. I narrowed my eyes. Why would Jeff leave his entire gym bag here? That doesn't make sense. She sighed, sounding slightly annoyed. Michael, I really don't know. Maybe he dropped by when we weren't home, we got talking, and he forgot it. Look, I'll call him later and sort it out. I didn't push further, but doubts gnawed at me. I couldn't remember any Jeff fixing our faucet. We usually hired a handyman named Paul through the landlord. Something was off. Over the next few weeks, my suspicion grew. Sarah's tennis outings had increased. She'd leave early on Saturdays when we once spent lazy mornings together, or she claimed to have late evening practice sessions. Whenever I asked if I could join her, she discouraged me, saying it was a private club or that I wouldn't enjoy it. I tried to trust her, but paranoia festered in my mind like a wound. I confided in my best friend, Marcus, over drinks one Friday night. I'm telling you, something's not right. Strange clothes keep showing up at my place and Sarah's tennis schedule is suddenly packed, I said. Marcus tilted his beer. You sure you're not being paranoid? Sarah's always been straightforward. I shook my head. It's too suspicious. a random sweater, a gym bag full of men's tennis gear, and she's making excuses that sound flimsy. He frowned. You could hire a private investigator. I'm not there yet, I said quietly. I'll figure this out myself. The next week, I decided to follow her. It was drastic, but I needed answers. On a Tuesday morning, I pretended to head off to work as usual. In truth, I circled the block and parked in a spot where I could watch our building's entrance. At around 10 a.m., Sarah emerged with her tennis bag slung over one shoulder, dressed in a white tennis skirt and visor. She looked every bit the professional suburban athlete. I watched as she disappeared around the corner, presumably heading to the courts near Lincoln Park. I waited. My heart pounded harder with every passing minute. What if I was wrong and she was just practicing? What if I was about to destroy our marriage over a misunderstanding? After about 2 hours, I saw her return alone. Relief washed over me like a cool breeze. She looked normal, no sign of nervousness or guilt. I began to question my own sanity. Was I truly that insecure? That relief lasted only a short while. About 15 minutes after she re-entered our apartment, a man approached, tall, athletic build, carrying a large sports bag. He wore a navy blue jacket and a cap pulled low over his face, but I could see the outline of a tennis racket protruding slightly from the bag. My stomach twisted painfully. This was it. Without hesitation, Sarah opened the door to let him in. Before he stepped inside, he glanced up and down the street as if making sure no one was watching. I cursed under my breath. I took out my phone and snapped a few photos, hands shaking. There was no denying it now. Some man, some tennis-playing stranger, was entering my home behind my back. What the hell is going on? I whispered to myself as I climbed out of the car. My thoughts raced. Should I confront him right away? Call the police? Storm in and catch them red-handed? I decided to be methodical. I locked my car and walked around the block, entering through the back alley. I still had my keys, and I knew how to open the backyard gate without a sound. Inside, the apartment was quiet downstairs. I could hear muffled voices and laughter drifting from upstairs, our bedroom, no doubt. Anger and heartbreak surged through me in equal measure. I tried to calm myself to think of a way to handle this without violence, but I was trembling. The realization that my wife, the woman I loved and wanted children with, had been lying to me for God knows how long. It made my vision blur with rage. I crept up the staircase, each step deliberate. Their voices grew clearer. I heard Sarah giggle, a sound I once cherished but now found revolting. And then a man's voice, low and confident. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar. I could see shadows cast on the wall by the afternoon sunlight. I pushed the door open with force. What the hell is going on here? Sarah screamed, a shrill, terrified sound. The man, bare-chested, just starting to undo his jeans, spun around in shock. He was younger than I expected, maybe in his late 20s, tanned with a tennis player's build. He looked at me like a deer caught in headlights. I lost it. I lunged at him, swinging a wild punch that connected with his cheek. He staggered back, cursing, and then scrambled to pull up his jeans as he bolted out of the room. "Michael!" Sarah shrieked, but I ignored her. I chased the man down the hallway, but he was too quick. He thundered down the stairs, nearly knocking over a lamp in the living room, and vanished out the front door. Panting, I returned to the bedroom. Sarah stood there, clutching the bedsheet around her, tears streaming down her face. She was shaking, but so was I. "Michael, I can explain." "Explain what?" I spat, voice cracking with fury and hurt. That this filthy bastard was screwing my wife in my own bed. That you lied to me for months, years, maybe. Her eyes pleaded with me. "It's not what it looks like, I swear. It was a mistake, I cut her off, my voice turning icy. A mistake. The sweater, the gym bag, the secret tennis sessions. You planned all this, Sarah. You brought him here to our home. God, we were talking about having children." She sobbed, but I felt no pity. "Michael, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. He was my tennis coach. We got close and I—" "Shut up," I growled, the bile rising in my throat. "You disgust me. All this time you let me believe we had a future. You lied every day." She tried to reach for me, but I pulled away. I couldn't bear her touch. "Michael, we can fix this. Therapy, counseling. Please don't throw everything away." "Don't you dare," I hissed. "Don't you dare act like this can be fixed. Get out. I'll handle this through the lawyers. You made a fool out of me." I packed a bag and left that evening, staying in a hotel to clear my head. The next day, I called Marcus and told him what happened. He listened quietly, then said, "I'm sorry, man. You deserve better." The divorce proceedings started within weeks. Sarah tried to reach out, apologizing, begging for another chance, but I was finished. I gave my lawyer explicit instructions. I wanted a clean break and no sympathy for her. Over the next few months, I learned the truth. She had been seeing this tennis coach for over a year, maybe longer. and I realized that the green sweater, the gym bag, those were just careless souvenirs of their many encounters. I discovered through a mutual acquaintance that Sarah had been unhappy for a while, feeling neglected by my long hours at the firm. But was that really an excuse? She never tried to talk openly about it. Instead, she brought another man into our home, into the very space where we dreamed of raising a child. The betrayal ran so deep I barely recognized myself in the mirror. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I ensured she got nothing extra. The apartment, the savings, all remained with me. I wanted no reminders of her, but I also refused to let her profit from my hard work. Before we signed the papers, she tried one last time to speak to me. "Michael," she said softly, her voice hollow in the lawyer's conference room. "I'm truly sorry. I messed up. I know you might never forgive me, but I need you to know I regret it." I looked at her, remembering how I once adored her, how we laughed and planned a future. But that woman I loved was gone. "Sarah, I don't care anymore," I said flatly. "Thank God we never had children. At least I don't have to explain to them who you really are." Her face crumpled, but I felt nothing. After it was all over, I stood in our now empty apartment, my apartment, staring out at the city skyline through the bedroom window. The bed was replaced, the sheets new, everything stripped of memories. The silence was oppressive, but it was honest silence, free of lies and deceit. I could start again. I could rebuild my life, find someone who deserved my love and trust. It would take time, maybe years, to recover from the wounds she inflicted. But I still had my career, my health, and my self-respect, hard won as it was. In the end, I realized that everything we had was just an illusion built on dishonesty. And though it hurt, I was grateful that I learned the truth before bringing a child into that mess. Some lessons are cruel but necessary. I took a deep breath and turned off the light, ready to move on.